Carl Casper is an ordinary chef with big dreams. He works at a restaurant called GWS in Brentwood, Los Angeles. One night, he feels extra nervous because a famous food critic and blogger, Ramsey Michael, is coming to review the place. Carl wants to impress him with a special menu full of creative dishes. However, in the middle of the busy kitchen rush, Carl steps out for a moment to pick up his son, Percy. Even though Carl is late, Percy doesn't seem upset. On their way back, they stop at a farmer's market to buy fresh ingredients for the night's meal. Back at the restaurant, things are getting tense. Carl is excited to serve his unique menu, but the restaurant owner, Reva, disagrees. He insists they stick to the usual menu, which Carl finds frustrating, trying to explain why they should try something new. But in the end, he gives in and follows the standard menu. That night, Ramsey Michael tests Carl's food and writes a harsh review. Instead of praising his cooking, he compares Carl's style to an elderly relative who desperately tries to win people over by giving them money. He even makes a mean comment about Carl's weight. The review deeply upsets Carl. Feeling down, Carl steps outside for some fresh air. Molly, a hostess from the restaurant, follows him and tries to cheer him up. She tells him he's one of the best chefs she has ever worked with and that his cooking is amazing. Molly invites Carl over to her place to help him relax. While there, Carl prepares a special meal for her. After spending some time together, he returns to the restaurant with a renewed sense of determination. That night, Carl stays up, working hard to create a brand new menu. The next morning, when the staff arrives, they taste his dishes and love them. They encourage him, telling him not to worry about what's happening on Twitter. Confused, Carl asks them what they mean, but they don't explain. Later, while cooking for Percy at home, Carl asks him about Twitter. Percy tells him he has an account, so Carl asks for help setting one up. Once online, they discover that Ramsey's review has gone viral. Not realizing how Twitter works, Carl quickly types a response, thinking it's a private message to Ramsey, but instead his reply is public for everyone to see. The next morning, Percy checks his tablet and notices Carl's message has spread everywhere. He tells his dad that his reply wasn't private. It was visible to everyone. Carl is shocked as he sees his online argument with Ramsey growing bigger. Frustrated, he challenges Ramsey to come back to the restaurant for another chance to prove himself. Later that day, when Carl drops Percy off at his ex-wife's house, she invites him inside. Carl's ex-wife, Inns, suggests that he should start his own food truck business, so he can be his own boss. She believes it would give him the freedom to cook whatever he wants. Carl listens to her idea but decides not to go for it. After their short conversation, he heads back to the restaurant, determined to focus on his work. At the restaurant, Carl is excited to serve his new dishes to Ramsey, hoping to change his opinion. However, the owner, Reva, refuses to let Carl change the menu. She also demands that Carl apologize to Ramsey on Twitter for their public argument. Carl refuses to do either. This leads to a heated argument between him and Reva. Unable to accept the restrictions placed on him, Carl decides to quit his job. After Carl leaves, Reva tells another staff member, Tony, to take over the kitchen. When Ramsey arrives for the second time, expecting something new, he is served the same dishes as before. This makes him even more frustrated, and he posts another negative tweet about Carl. Meanwhile, Carl is at home, preparing his own dishes, trying to take his mind off everything. Ramsey asks about Carl at the restaurant, but Reva tells him that Carl is no longer there. When Carl sees Ramsey's latest tweet, he loses his patience and rushes back to the restaurant to confront him. He vents his frustration, explaining how difficult it is for chefs to satisfy customers and how much effort goes into preparing every dish. Without realizing it, someone records his outburst and posts it online. The video spreads quickly, damaging Carl's reputation even further. Now he has lost both his job and his credibility. Feeling lost, Carl reaches out to Jen, a friend of his ex-wife, for advice. Jen suggests that he appear on a cooking show called Hell's Kitchen to rebuild his image. However, Carl dislikes the idea and immediately turns it down. She then mentions that he could lay low until the situation calms down, but Carl rejects this too and quickly ends the call. Later, Carl talks to Inns, who offers her support during this difficult time. Meanwhile, Percy sees the viral video of his father's angry rant and is deeply affected by it. Carl, feeling guilty, meets up with his staff at a bar. They hang out, talk about the video, and try to lighten the mood. However, Carl is still stressed about everything. Afterward, he visits Molly and pours his heart out to her, sharing all his frustrations. Molly listens carefully and suggests that he take a break to clear his mind. When Carl expresses concern about how Percy might be feeling, Molly advises him to talk to his son and really listen to him. She also tells Carl that instead of looking for another job under someone else, he should consider doing something on his own. Taking her advice, Carl decides to visit Percy the next day. However, when he arrives, he finds that Percy is still upset and doesn't want to talk. Just then, In steps in and takes Carl outside for a conversation. She suggests that they take a trip to Miami to visit her father. At first, Carl refuses, saying he has no job and no money. But Inns explains that Percy is hurt not just because of the online drama, but because Carl has not been able to keep the promises he made to him. Inns explains that since Percy's nanny won't be able to join them on the trip, Carl can take care of Percy while she is at work. She also reminds Carl that Percy was born in Miami, and that Carl's cooking career started there. She believes that visiting Miami could be good for Percy and might also help Carl reconnect with his son. After thinking about it, Carl realizes that the trip could actually help them bond. Although he's unsure at first, he finally agrees to go. Once in Miami, Carl, Percy, and Inns explore different places together, enjoying the change of scenery. One day, they visit a restaurant where Inns' father is singing at the bar. They sit down for lunch with him, catching up and spending quality time together. As Carl eats, he rediscovers his love for Cuban cuisine. The flavors bring back memories, and suddenly an idea sparks in his mind. He wants to bring this taste back to Los Angeles by opening his own food truck. To get started, Carl plans to meet Marvin, Inns' ex-husband, who lives in Miami. Carl visits Marvin's office, and after a brief chat about Marvin's personal life, they discuss business. Marvin offers Carl an old, worn-out food truck. It's not in great shape, but Carl sees its potential. As Carl examines the truck, Inns and Percy arrive. Inns decides to leave, asking Carl to take care of Percy while she runs some errands. Carl and Percy then begin the hard work of cleaning and fixing up the truck. They scrub, repair, and organize everything. At one point, Percy accidentally throws away a metal item that Carl wanted to keep. Frustrated, Carl scolds him, but he quickly realizes his mistake and apologizes. To make up for it, Carl takes Percy shopping for kitchen equipment. At the store, Carl explains the purpose of each item they buy, making sure Percy understands how everything works. Before they leave, he gives Percy a small chef's knife and advises him to handle it with care. Back at the truck, Carl and Percy struggle to load the new equipment. Nearby, a group of men is playing cards, so they ask for help. But due to a language barrier, the men don't understand and ignore them. Just then, Martin, one of Carl's former staff members from the restaurant, arrives. Martin has chosen to leave his promotion at the restaurant to join Carl in starting the food truck business. Now with Martin on board, things start moving faster. The three of them, Carl, Percy, and Martin, get busy setting up the food truck, making sure everything is in place. Once they're ready, Martin sends Carl and Percy to the market to buy fresh groceries while he stays behind to prepare. After picking up the supplies, Carl and Percy return to the truck and find Martin already working in the kitchen, cooking up some delicious food. As they get started, Carl and Martin begin teaching Percy some basic cooking skills. Percy eagerly helps out, tasting the dishes they prepare and learning step by step. To attract customers, they decide to give away food for free at first. People start gathering around, curious to try their dishes. However, while cooking, Percy accidentally burns a sandwich. Carl notices and points it out, but Percy argues that it doesn't matter since they aren't charging for the food yet. Carl sees this as a teaching moment. He explains to Percy that being a great chef means always maintaining high standards, no matter what. Even if the food is free, it should always be prepared with care and excellence. Percy listens carefully, realizing the importance of taking pride in his work. Feeling motivated, they return to the truck and continue serving food. As Carl watches people enjoy his food, he feels a deep sense of happiness. This is exactly how he loves to cook and serve. Later that evening, after finishing their shift, Carl, Percy, and Martin sit together and relax. Carl shares his plan. They will start selling food in Miami, then gradually make their way back to Los Angeles, stopping in different cities along the way. Percy gets excited and asks if he can come along since he has a school break. At first, Carl suggests that Percy should fly back with his mother in business class. However, when Percy insists and gets permission from Inns, Carl decides to let him join them on the road trip. Martin then suggests that Carl and Percy head back to the hotel for the night while he takes care of getting more ingredients in them. He also plans to paint the food truck to give it a fresh new look. Carl hesitates at first because his credit card is maxed out. Martin reassures him he doesn't know someone to do the job. The next morning, Martin arrives with the freshly painted food truck, looking better than ever. Carl and Percy load up their supplies and they hit the road. As they travel across the country, they serve delicious Cuban sandwiches and other dishes. Percy helps promote their trip by updating their location on Twitter, and soon, people start recognizing Carl. Customers line up, excited to try their food. Percy also uses social media to boost their popularity. He records short 6-second videos capturing highlights of their journey and posts them online. By adding geotags to their locations, he draws in even more customers, turning their food truck into a huge success. In New Orleans, Carl and Percy take some time to explore the local market and enjoy the city before getting back to work. After serving food in multiple locations, they finally arrive in Austin. One night, after finishing their shift, Carl sits down with Percy for a heartfelt conversation. He tells Percy that their road trip has been special, but soon Percy will have to return to school, and life will go back to how it was before. Percy is disappointed, but he understands. When they return to their hometown, Carl drops Percy off at Inns's house. Before Carl leaves, Percy gives him a hug and reminds him to post the final summary video of their trip, a collection of short daily clips showing their journey. Carl promises to take care of it. Later that night, Carl watches the video Percy made. It beautifully captures their time together and how much closer they have become. Watching it, Carl realizes that he doesn't want to go back to the way things were. He calls Percy and offers him the chance to help with the food truck on weekends and after school. Percy is overjoyed and quickly shares the news with Inns. In the final scene, Carl, Percy, and Inns are working together on the food truck. Suddenly, Ramsey approaches Carl and starts a conversation. He admits that he was once a fan of Carl's cooking, but was disappointed by the meal he had at the restaurant. He explains that his harsh review was never meant to destroy Carl's career, but to push him to improve. Now, wanting to make amends, Ramsey offers to fund a brand new restaurant where Carl will have complete creative freedom. 6 months later, Carl's new restaurant is thriving. On this special night, the restaurant is closed for a private event, Carl and Inns's remarriage ceremony. Friends and loved ones gather to celebrate as Carl and Inns begin a new chapter together, filled with love, family, and great food. And that's where this amazing story ends. Subscribe for more amazing recaps.